Three, two, and we're live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of CampusCare EdTalks, an exclusive platform where the stalwarts of education come on board to express their viewpoint on burning topics related to education. Before I begin, let me quickly introduce you to Entab. We are a 20-year-old IT company engaged in providing matured and futuristic school ERP, CRM, and mobile apps to the top schools across India and help transform them from good schools to the best ones. Today, in Campus Care Ed Talks, we will talk with our guest speakers to find out about the innovation in teaching models. These methods or strategies help students to retain the facts they have gathered during the process of learning. One very important topic which we'll shed light on would be brain mapping. I hope so. So creativity in teaching definitely enhances the interest level of students and promotes participation in a classroom environment. As we all know, students who have been in a monotonous environment for long now, thus keeping their spirits up is the need of the hour. And specifically in pandemic, how is the engagement going on? So without any further delay, let me introduce you our guest speakers of the day. Our first guest of the day is a dedicated educationist who has devoted over 2 decades in the field of education. Ma'am attended various workshops and training sessions conducted by various organizations. In her long and illustrious career, she has contributed to the sphere of education in varied roles, whether she was a teacher, a trainer, or a school administrator. Developing an innovative and child centric curriculum, she has an eye for spotting the uniqueness of every child and guides her or him accordingly. She has won many accolades and felicitations for the school and leadership qualities. Ma'am believes today's superwoman can ably manage both work and home front with leading success. So please welcome Sudeshna ma'am, principal of Banyan Tree School, Punjab. Welcome on board, ma'am. Our next guest of the day is an educator who's a passionate one. She has been contributing her skills and knowledge for 15 years to the education fraternity. Ma'am had the privilege to be associated with some of the top educational institutes of our nation. She is actively involved in teacher training programs and is closely working with CBSE in designing online teachers training modules. She is a strong proponent of activity based teaching methods and has successfully implemented innovative educational practices in her school. Ma'am has been the recipient of Guru Dronacharya Award, Most Influential Women Leaders Award, and many more. Please welcome Gunjan Sahni, ma'am, principal of Sobtis Public School. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome on board.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next guest is an educationist who has dedicated herself to education and upliftment of our young students. She takes pride in contributing her efficient skills and knowledge to students and educators across India. Ma'am has conducted and was a part of her leadership training across the country. Over her long, illustrious career, she has received several awards and accolades for her outstanding skills as an educator. Please welcome Nidhi Charohi, ma'am, principal of GD Goenka Global School, Noida. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And last but not the least, our next guest of the day is a seasoned educator with a experience of more than 2 decades. Over the long years, ma'am has indulged in various activities. She authored books for CBSE, a critique with publication of CBSE. Ma'am is a national level member of committee appointed by the CBSE, who has successfully published papers in international journals. Owing to her remarkable journey, ma'am received several awards for contributing her skills and knowledge in India as well as abroad. She spearheaded a partnership with the leading school in Korea, Ariam Middle School Seong basically. Ma'am makes it a point to actively participate in educational conferences, webinars, and seminars as a speaker as well as a panelist. Please welcome Poonam Kumar Mendiratta, ma'am, principal of the Manthan School, Greater Noida. Welcome on board, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So now we're done with the introductions and everything. So let's take the webinar forward. And from seniority, Poonam ma'am, I'll go to first with you. Ma'am, that
Right.
as an educator yourself, I'm sure you must be expert in utilizing various technologies and tools that are at your disposal. Now, according to you, what are the latest teaching techniques that have undertaken or that have erupted during pandemic, basically, and maybe in the upcoming future as well?
Yeah, so as we all know, change is the only constant thing. And this pandemic has brought about a drastic change in the entire education system globally. For schools, 2020 has been a bit tough time. These kinds of abrupt growth hurt sometimes, but it is necessary. And whether we are ready or not, education is evolving. As we wrap up this difficult academic year and look towards the next one, I would like to reflect on the changes which have come across in the system. The most effective teaching method which has evolved is the technological growth. Technological growth of students, teachers, and everyone whosoever is associated in the education sector. From a normal classroom setup, now the teachers are talking about Flipgrid, Teams, Google Classrooms, Kahoot, and many more. If I look around, I find that even those who were not tech savvy at all, they have graduated and advanced in digital technology. The tireless effort of the emergency needs of the students and parents has deeply, encouraged the growing desire to seize the opportunity to focus on the deep focus of education through the twin pillars of well-being and learning. Right. So life's challenges are not supposed to paralyze you. They are supposed to help you discover who you are. And during this pandemic, all of us have evolved, and no area is untouched, and
Mhm.
education is not away from all these things. Thank you.
Right. So no area is untouched according to ma'am. And I'll ask the same similar question with Gunjan ma'am. Gunjan ma'am, what are your viewpoints about the same?
Well, I'll agree with Poonam ma'am on this. What I feel is that, during this pandemic, of course, overnight everybody switched to the online mode of teaching, and the way teachers, students, parents adapted the technological revolution was something praiseworthy. And I feel that the pandemic has proved to be the biggest teacher of all times for all of us, and especially the teaching fraternity as well as students, and several methodologies that we have seen that suddenly schools started using and has helped students. Some of the most important ones were flipped classrooms, probably all the things that we wanted to incorporate since so many years. This pandemic gave us a chance to actually implement it on ground, and whatever we used to just talk about, now we saw schools actually doing it. So flipped classrooms, then project based learnings, cooperative learnings, games, probably game mechanisms and dynamics, they also proved to be a big hit, because especially for junior classes wherein children took on to online mediums, online platforms, and we had to ensure that to retain their attention and to ensure that their concentration span stays. So small videos, games teachers were designing, and that proved to be a big hit. Another very important technique that schools used and has proved beneficial was problem based learning, wherein all the 21st century skills that we talk about even in the new education policy 2020 were seen blossoming in our kids, be it critical thinking, creative skills, problem solving abilities. Students were motivated, and there was better knowledge sharing happening in this challenging time. So there were a lot of techniques that teachers, students have learned during this difficult time. And another thing is, if we talk about new education policy, also it talks about competency based learning. That what are the skill sets that our children are acquiring, because all these years we've been saying that especially in India, children are passing out of schools and getting their graduation degrees, but they do not have the necessary skill sets which
Right.
are required by the, or which is the demand of the market. And however, now our children, at least technologically, if we consider them, they have learned a lot, and these competencies that they are learning will go a long way in making them, challenge handle future challenges very effectively. So that's what I feel, that these technologies have come in very handy. to help in schools.
Right. Nidhi ma'am, over to you. Ma'am mentioned that we've seen flipped classrooms now, and we are seeing basically the learners became the trainers in terms of technology for educators. I'm pretty sure because in the early scenario, everybody, even the kids, helped out their class teachers how to manage the Zoom calls and so on and so forth. Now, apart from that, do you think that now the time has come when, because as ma'am correctly pointed out, Gunjan ma'am, that our graduates are also not, and it's a very scary number because when the CEO, I'll take the name of the person, ma'am, the CEO of Tech Mahindra said that are 98% of graduates of engineering, when they are there, they know all the theoretical things, but they do not have any practical knowledge. And this NEP 2020 will be infusing that though. However, my question to you, Nidhi ma'am, apart from all this discussion, is that do you think now the time has come that we're going to see a paradigm shift in terms of acceptance of technology and new methods to be adopted by schools?
Absolutely, Manshu. It's not about. See, one saw it happening. So pandemic probably hastened the entire process, if I have to say,
Yeah.
because technology is a way of life today, and especially these children you're born now, they are so well versed with it. It's something like, I mean, I often say it's a mutation that happens in the genes itself. So when they are born, they are definitely technologically far better than probably our generation. And this pandemic, it's not only about technology, it's a whole lot of. So when you talk of education, education is lifelong learning, which happens 24/7, 365 from the time you're born till you leave the planet. Right. Now, when you're saying that about employment, about the skill sets, I think that was a concern that's been there for at least 2 decades now. I mean, long back when I had just got into this profession, if one would there would be graduates and postgraduates who would walk into a bank and would not know how to probably withdraw money back then. They did not know how to fill up a form. Children did not know how to write an application with all the degrees that they have. So these were concerns that we've been facing. I mean, if I have to pinpoint even today, and I'm sure my other panelists will agree with it. I mean, I think 60% of my applications, or 40% when they come from parents to the principal, it's a principal with an LE. Okay. So it's so when I'm talking, and why I point out this particular thing is because everybody goes to school and everybody there's a board and principals written all over. So what happened to your observation skills? So what have you? So it's not only about technology. I think there are many other skills that one needs to learn. And I think what happened right now, as I would just like to add another point is, I think family bonding and working together. See, what used to happen earlier, parents, they were involved, they were indulgent, but once they sent the child to the school, the entire responsibility,
Yeah.
the onus, and accountability would shift to the school.
School, yeah.
But in this scenario, it happened like the parents were on board.
All the
And
stakeholders basically came together. Yeah, that's
exactly,
absolutely
and for
true.
the first time, probably they realized the hard work that goes into teaching the children. Because all along they thought, they were always on the other side of the table, demanding and finding faults and, blaming and all that would happen. But suddenly they're together and they realized, what it is all about.
Yeah.
Focusing on the child, I think every child is an individual. They have the potential, they have the talent, and it's extremely important for us to understand that. And when you're talking about the paradigm shift, I think senior children, not only did they help it, they would come and discuss, obviously on Zoom, as to how the assessment should be conducted, so that nobody uses any unfair means. So I've had my own students coming and giving us proposals, or what kind of an assessment would they like about themselves. What is it that they want to do, right? And we've had so many competitions, everything on the virtual media, which the children have prepared themselves. So the paradigm shift is not only about technology; it's all about exploring oneself, the new learning, and what is it that you require. And as it is, we know that somewhere the importance of degree is being diluted globally. It's more about what the personality that you have, the skills that you have, that big companies would be recruiting you. So it's extremely important that one, the child's own personality should kind of evolve, and I think that's happening.
That's very good, ma'am. And to be very honest, when the CEO of Tesla says that I don't hire based on skills, I don't hire based on paper, I hire based on skills. So, of course, naturally, it's going to have some effect. Apart from
Google
that,
has started doing that.
yeah,
Google,
Google, Facebook used to have hackathons, ma'am. I remember back in my day, Facebook used to have hackathons to hire to fix a bug and everything. And exactly, gamification and all those things are happening. But one very important point which I would like to take out from this discussion, Nadi ma'am, is you mentioned the involvement of family. Earlier, when I was growing up, my parents used to say, कि मैम आपका बच्चा संभालो जो करना है करो. I'll be very honest. So, Poonam, Sudeshna ma'am, I would like to take this with you nowadays because I was having this conversation with one of the educators and they mentioned that they have developed their content now in such a manner that even the parents and the grandparents are getting involved in with students to solve their homework. Have you adopted something or is this going to be an approach forward? Sudeshna ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, you see, in today's increasing globalized world, it is important to make learning and education a holistic experience. It has to be beyond classroom academics.
Right.
We cannot restrict ourselves only to a structured, NCRT curriculum. Obviously, we have to, stick to it, but not those textbooks. So we have to go beyond this. And I think all the schools, all the panelists would agree that we are doing much, much beyond than what is there in the textbooks. For simple activities like if we are having, say, subject week, so we take up any subject. Now the children, they themselves, they get into so much of research work these days. And right from the beginning, right from class, maybe say class 1 onwards. So we talk about rivers. So they take us on a virtual tour. So every person is involved over here. It is not the teacher and the child alone. The parents are involved. The parents, they know that how much the child is learning the concepts. It is all application and concept-based learning, which is the future education. We cannot rely on textbook, topic, question answers, and that's the end of it. We have to go much beyond it. Just a few minutes back, Gunjan ma'am was mentioning about flipped classroom. What is flipped classroom? It is basically, it is simply to roll the responsibility of learning towards the students.
Right.
They are doing the research work, they are doing the debating, the discussion, the presentation. What is the teacher doing? The teacher is taking a discussion, finding out, on the topic, finding out how much the children could comprehend, how much the children they have learned. So that is what is now the teacher's job. It has changed again.
Right.
Flip. It is children, they have to get into depth, they have to understand more about the topic. The teacher is only going to discuss and tell them that this is what is we are going to study today. So for this, as you have asked me, parents are also equally involved. And, I always say, there's always the other side, due to Corona, all of us, we teachers, parents, all of us, we've learned so much. Yeah. Now every parent is involved. During the lockdown, parents they were involved in knowing that what their child was doing, how to operate the Zoom classes. It all happened in one night. Yeah. And it was all untested. Everything was on trial error basis. So each one of us, we are now digitally more acquainted. The parents are involved. So I think this learning process now is what is happening is taking together. All of us are putting that effort to take it further.
Right, right. Absolutely, Sudeshna ma'am. Moving forward to Poonam ma'am. Ma'am, so like there's one known as flipped classroom, which we were discussing. Then there's brain mapping. Then there's experiential learning. Nowadays, there's a lot of talk about experiential learning, wherein I'll go to my Mali and my Mali will explain me कि बेटा ये पौधा यहाँ डालना है. These are the seasonal plants and everything, and that can also be termed as experiential learning. So, are there any other activities that you, as an educator, know of, or might have adopted in your school to make learning a much more happier experience and a much more relaxed experience for a student? Pura ma'am?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays CBSE is also talking about happy classrooms.
Yeah.
When I say happy classrooms, it means we are talking about experiential learning.
Yeah.
And when I use the term experiential learning, there is an important term called embodied cognition, utilizing the entire body, utilizing all the five senses, so that the learning is long term. Right. So when I say happy classroom, that classroom is wonderful where the class is interacting. More the commotion, not in terms of that everyone is moving in his own direction. Sudeshna talked about flipped classroom, one of the very important strategy which we utilize in the school, where the teacher is the guided YouTube links she is giving to the students, and then students are preparing it, and all the 21st century skills can be acquired through it, because the children will be collaborating, they will be carrying out critical thinking, and it is as per the Bloom's taxonomy as well, right? So using the embodied cognition techniques, utilizing all the five senses, utilizing the project based learning, where we are involving child in such a way that they are responsible for their own learning, and a feeling of achievement is there for every single thing which you are doing. I believe that these learning methods would make our children independent thinkers, independent learner, and the kind of problem which Nidhi ma'am was sharing also. All of us have gone to school. All of us have written principal quite a good number of times. From grade 3 onwards, we ask them to write an application to the principal, maybe the sick leave. And every single parent who is sending the child has written principal. I've not more than, I said a minimum 100 times a person has written, but those kind of mistakes are seen. Why? Because maybe we were not involved in that learning, or we were not using our senses completely to do it. So if we will involve the child in such a way that they are responsible for their own learning, they are into their senses and they are doing. And why are they doing? So they understand the reason behind it. And I believe then that would be the happy classroom. And all these strategies, may it be project based learning, may it be flipped classroom, may it be experiential learning, all of these strategies and teaching methodologies make students responsible for their own learning. And it is a known fact, every new knowledge has to be built on the previously known concept. So these kind of strategies and methodologies will make the child responsible, and in turn will convert it into a happy classroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poonam ma'am. Taking cue from that, hello? Oh, I'm so sorry, I was on mute. I'm so sorry, I was on mute. Taking cue from that, Nidhi ma'am. Now, one of the biggest hurdles were, as a educator for you, as a leader of a school for you, would have been training the trainers. Basically, training your teachers in terms of using a new technology. What all hurdles did you face when you adopted new technology? I'm sure you must have adopted online classes or something to come over pandemic, right? So, how hard was it?
Well, as far as the teachers are concerned, so we had, the first few days were spent having meetings within the team and within the group. And of course, being a school of a certain kind, a lot of technology was already being used in school, right? So we have smart boards, so teachers were using technology. But the main hurdle, I would say, was not from the teachers' perspective, because everybody wanted to grow and everybody wanted to learn. And in fact, there were so many who came up with their new, as Poonam ma'am had also mentioned about Kahoot and these apps. So it was the teachers who were coming up with these things. Okay, ma'am, there's this app and X, Y, and so many things that were there. Or whether, and to take a decision whether to use Zoom or Teams or Meet, or all that was happening. But I think the main hurdle that was coming was from the parents' side, because especially for the younger lot. So where the parents were not very sure of whether the child, a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, will be able to sit in front of the screen and would be engaged enough, in the class, that a similar learning would happen at home as it would have happened in a physical school. For the senior children, the parents had this a little apprehension about written work being done, because when you're in the class, there's a lot of written work that is done. So there's a mindset about that. So across the virtual medium, how would they do that? How would the assessment take place? So those were the main areas where one had to build confidence of the parents, right? And for that, the classes had to be very, very interactive, age appropriate. So for that reason, for the primary, so we had so many storytellings and puppets, and there were, a whole lot of other activities. We, of course, our Montessori teacher was taking a lot of interactive classes. We were having yoga, and to build their concentration, which the parent was also seeing at home, and by and by the confidence built. As far as written work was concerned, assignments were given to the children, and because of the situation that we all were in, I think everybody was there to put in their bit. So even the senior children, they knew exactly what they had to do, and they would be, sending whatever answers or things they had. They were being emailed to the teachers. They were checking. They were correcting. So what had happened at that particular time was that one had lost a sense of time. We were working right through, and I'm sure everybody would have faced the same situation. And also the added thing was that because of a complete lockdown, and being most teachers being women and ladies, they were working at home as well. So they had a home front to look after, and they had their professional front to look after. But they did it so beautifully. So there was like, if a child, there were teachers who took special classes in the evening. There were parents, especially doctor parents, who could not sit with their children during the day, the younger ones, and they requested extra classes. Those classes were being taken in the evening. There were senior children who wanted more attention in their classes. Children with learning difficulties, there were different groups. So there were a whole lot of things which would have happened at different stations in a class, in a physical school, but here they were happening all virtually. But as it is, I think it brought everybody very, very close on a different platform. And I think all of us have evolved, not only as professionals and people with technology, I think as human beings. So there is a lot of empathy. There is a lot of being sensitivity that has to, that should be there uh, in people, and being sensitive to the environment as well. Because during pandemic, what was noticed, and because we used to have such sessions, I used to take them personally with my both with the parents as well as students, is how the environment had changed. It was also beautiful outside. A blue sky had started appearing. So we had to go beyond that to sensitize. And when that happened, now the children come up with a lot of their own projects where they don't want the nature going back to what it was before the pandemic. And then we had a lot of sessions where we kind of gave suggestions to parents how to engage with children. So till now, what would happen is whatever is being taught in school, they come back home and do the homework. So but here it was. I mean, and I personally feel that when you're talking of happy classrooms and happiness, is all about bonding. It's all about relationships. And parents narrating their own stories about their childhood, grandparents telling about theirs, children of today trying to map them with their experiences. There's a huge learning that happens, not only in terms of what should I say, information. I think there's a lot of skill development also that happens, because a grandmother or a grandfather would say how they did certain things which are now totally mechanized, right? So that entire evolution, and then the interest in history, and history is extremely important to understand today. So all of it is kind of interlinked. It's a huge thing which I think it all kind of came together, and it was. I mean, one can crib about it and one can look at the positives, and I would rather look at a whole lot of positives that the pandemic brought about. Yeah.
Of course. So let's look at the positive, of course. And to be very honest, it's often said that.
You're again on mute, Himanshu.
Oh, sorry, ma'am. This is the
Mhm.
first time that is happening, that I'm on mute and I don't have people. You guys are telling me that I'm on mute. All right. One of the there's a book which I follow a lot, that is Art of War by Sun Tzu, and it has a very famous quote where it states that during the midst of chaos there lies an opportunity.
Always.
Always.
So that's what we have seen, and as being from the IT field and being an expert in what we do, being there's also a rapid acceptance of technology now, as if the technology has been entrusted upon the educators. That now, you know what, there's no escape route. Do you think it is also overburdensome sometimes too? Because itna hai, this flip, like ma'am said, there's Squabble Pad, there's this new apps that are being generated, and plus NEB 2020 coding is going to be compulsory. So, Sudeshna ma'am, do you think there's too much of technology, or are we still we have that hesitation towards technology? Now, I don't think so. Any teacher would be hesitant towards adoption of technology. Sudeshna ma'am and Gunjan ma'am, both of you. My question is from both of you. Sudeshna ma'am, if you can begin.
Yeah. See, I don't feel that at all. Because, again, what we have started with, that there is no end to learning, right? It is just that technology has come in now, which we are seeing. Of course, as Nidhi ma'am was mentioning, that we have been doing it. It is there in all the schools. We have been doing it. But now that we are all stuck at home, and we are we've started with online classes. We wanted that children should also get an exposure. Children should explore the various the digital tools that we have, which we can use. And see, it was not possible during the lockdown to take children for field sites, right? If I talk about project learning, so project learning we had earlier also, because the main aim of project learning is you learn, and while you are doing, you are learning. We talk about playway method, we talk about project learning. So everything was there. Only thing what is happening now is that we are trying to do everything together, maybe initial stages. Now I feel that every teacher, every child, they are very comfortable. Initially, before lockdown, before this pandemic took place, we were, moment we thought about research work, we used to feel that children at the age of, 7, 8, 9 years or 10 years, what research work they are doing. It's not the literal meaning of research. It is that they need to know beyond books. So technology, if you see this virtual touring, they are enjoying. This is all related to experiential learning, which they are all enjoying. Now, as I mentioned, a video conferencing, or maybe, children are writing blogs. How wonderfully they write, they express. So, initially, what was happening with the traditional methodology or traditional approach, we were restricting or limiting themselves to syllabus, exams, and that's it. Now we have diversified. We've given them options. Just go ahead, beyond books, and see what you can do. What there are students in our school where children are coming up with new apps. They are telling the teachers, obviously, this generation, they are much more faster than us. They are coming up with apps. They are telling that if we use this, for examination purpose, if we use this, these are the benefits. Even for online examination, see, initially we started with an online examination, if I can just mention, and we saw that we were not successful. I'm sure all of them would agree. On an error basis. So we were not successful. Most of them were managing to take it from here and there during their online class exams, and they could give us a full-fledged correct answer. We thought we need to change it. So it is all of us coming together, even the children coming on the same platform. We have realized that just teaching and taking exams from the books will not help. So I personally feel that this is not at all a pressure. Rather, they are getting exposed. They are able to explore more and they are learning better. Rather than just sticking to textbooks, I feel textbooks was a pressure for them. So it's the other way now.
Gunjan ma'am, very quickly, your
Gunjan
thoughts on...
can, yeah, sure. So Himanshu, if I'm not wrong, you asked that with so much of bombarding of different technological tools happening, is it appropriate for every school to apply every sort of tool? Now, the situation is different for every school, and it is different for, of course, each class level. Now, it differs from city to city also. Now, we all know that there is a great digital divide in our country. Thankfully, we all are sitting, on as heads of schools where children are coming from privileged backgrounds. So we've been, successfully we've managed to provide them online content. But there are many schools they have EWS category students studying in schools who never had access to maybe a good Wi-Fi connection at home. And forget about Wi-Fi; most of them never even had one-to-one devices. And during the pandemic, there were parents working from home. Probably they also require their laptops and computers. And at the same time, classes going on. So availability of devices was a problem. Availability of internet was a problem. However, slowly, parents who could afford, they switched to these things and they provided those opportunities because they realized that it's a mandate, it's mandatory. Without that, because those times when the pandemic had hit, there was a choice between either online education or no education.
Right.
So naturally, the only way out was online education. However, I feel fortunately now I am currently here in Bareilly, and now since November, schools for 9 to 12 are open. Children are coming, writing their exams. They've written their pre-board 1, 2, everything, and 9s and 11s are also writing their exams. And I feel that children are very happy to be back. They're really happy. And not just 9 to 12, even at times we receive phone calls from parents, especially the new admissions, junior law, who took admission into the school, but the pandemic happened and they've never even visited the school campus. They didn't even see their teacher. Only thing they saw her, through the window of a laptop. So probably that emotional connect, everybody tried during pandemic to have that connect, to have strong communication channels with parents, and it did succeed. But the beauty of having classrooms filled with children and your playgrounds filled with their laughters, that is unmatched. So technology is there as an aid, and now no school is going to take a U-turn. Everybody's come really a long way where they've incorporated technologically beautifully into their curriculums. But now, as I said, blended learning, is the way forward, wherein once I hope that things are going to be fine soon with vaccination, vaccine coming in and India being, going ahead in the right direction. So schools will be reopening. Orders have come, in fact, in UP for classes 6 to 8 also to reopen. And then slowly, I'm sure that it was a short span of time. If you look at the entire, our lifespan, this period will go by. But as whatever learning, whatever takeaways that this period has given away, we all need to look at the positives, as ma'am said, that better to look at the positives rather than negatives. So there is a lot of technology available, but we do not have to apply it blindfoldly, that put everything, Google Classroom also, Padlet also, no. probably we should have a very streamlined way of applying technology so that parents and students know that this is the mechanism that we are following. Complete clarity of instructions and communication between. Also, we need to decide that the technology that we are choosing it to communicate between teachers and students, or is it for teachers and parents? Because there are two different channels. That's very important. Many times we need to communicate with parents exclusively, and sometimes we need to communicate with children. So there's a whole lot of options available. Preferably, in families where every child is not having access to his or her personal laptop or a computer desktop, then we should always prefer such apps which are mobile friendly, and children can access them easily. And yes, that's my take on that. That technology, good, very good, but it's not a replacement to a teacher or the beauty of offline schools.
All right, wrapping it up very quickly. So, last question to all of you: three key technological tools that would be essential. I know online learning would be there because now what will happen is I'm talking. Let's take example of Delhi. Maybe Noida. Noida is also another example we can take. कि अगर अब pollution हुआ तो schools बंद नहीं होंगे. That I know for a fact now. So very quickly, three technological tools according to you, would be absolutely essential in the coming future and as of today as well. Poonam, I'm beginning from you.
Yeah, I believe that one of them should be Edpuzzle, which helps in sharing any video, and teachers can pause and can put a questionnaire in between, which is going to help students a lot. The other one is Floop for giving the feedback to the students as they submit their work, and the third one, Story Weaver. I think it's going to help a lot, so that the kids, it will help in increasing their creativity, as per me. Yeah.
Okay. Very quickly, Gunjan ma'am.
Yes, if I were to talk about three technological tools that are really accessible easily to masses, I'll go for Google Classroom, Google Meet, and of course the school software through which we can easily interact with parents.
ERP systems, basically.
The messaging apps.
Yeah.
Yes, ERP systems.
Nidhi ma'am.
See, here, well, I would like to kind of put in here. We were discussing, I mean, I'll just take a minute. We were just discussing about, technological bombardment that is happening and learning and textbooks and everything. My take on this is that the present generation lives in a generation, a time where there is bombardment of information. There's too much of information in textbooks. We cannot limit their studies or their access only to textbooks. Is much beyond that. They have more information than the teachers have, right? Similarly, when you're talking of so many tools and technology coming, it's bound to happen. And there's a whole lot of reason. There's suddenly when online classes started, so people started working on different kind of apps, and that was for commercial reasons, right? Now this was a huge learning again. So to be able to choose what is right is also a skill that has to be developed in the children, not only from the information that is available to them, but also the technological tools that are available to them, which is ever growing. It's going to evolve all the time. So it may be there's some today, tomorrow something else is going to come day after. So they have to keep upgrading themselves. They have to keep evolving themselves. And I mean, in addition to the others as mentioned by panelists, I think YouTube is a great channel because there is so much that one can pick up from there. And we as a school, both for in terms of what the teachers do and students, we encourage them to make their own. So whether there are presentations, so we, the teachers work a lot on that, and similarly we expect the students also to do.
Right. Good, Nidhi ma'am. Last but not the least, Sudeshna ma'am.
I completely agree with what Nidhi ma'am mentioned just now. See, we also encourage our children to use YouTube channel because there, as she said, that there's, they can explore a lot. When we are talking about research work and all, they explore a lot. So yes, even I will not be fixing up anything in particular, but our ERP system that has to be in place because without that it is little difficult for us to function administrative as well as academics. And we are at present using Google Classroom and Google Meet. But that I am not fixing it that that is the only thing which we should use. We can change it to Teams if we feel that Teams would be a better option than Google Classroom. So, but yes, YouTube channel and ERP should be, it is in my priority.
Wonderful. That's music to my ears, Sudeshna ma'am, to be very honest. So, if I understand it correctly, the upcoming tools or the relevant technologies at this point of time would be online classes and then communication tools, correct? All of you?
Yeah.
Gunjan ma'am, Nidhi ma'am, Sudeshna ma'am, Poonam ma'am.
Absolutely.
What about assessments? My question to you, what about assessments? What about analytics? What about what these technologies have actually done? So I'll leave you with this question, and you can discuss about it amongst yourself. Thank you so much for giving me your valuable time, Gunjan ma'am, Nidhi ma'am, Sudeshna ma'am, and Poonam ma'am. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was a wonderful insight that we gained on how technology basically is just a tool. At the end of the day, it's the educators who've dedicatedly worked so hard, who worked as Corona warriors. And, it is only a tool to equip them in a better manner so that they can perform at their peak level. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming on board and giving us your valuable time. It was a pleasure having you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.